What's up? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. What's up, guys? So listen, every moment of every day, there's always something going on in this 45/47 MAGA nation that we are under the regime of. I can't keep up with everything, but I want to share a little bit of this, guys, because these town halls that I heard, Republicans were getting creamed at them. The Republican representatives were getting creamed. So they were told not to hold them anymore. But some apparently are a glutton for punishment. So they're still holding these town halls. And these people, and I'm calling them ex MAGA. Hopefully, they really are ex. But at this point, it doesn't matter until they start voting the complete opposite. You don't have to be a Democrat to vote for a Democrat. You don't have to be a liberal to vote for a liberal. But if you want to rid this nation of the majority of the hatred and the racism and the bigotry and all of the things that have been seeping out from this MAGA regime, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that. So now they've effed around and found out it has been not even well, maybe at this point, we're going into 4 months of this garbage, but they came straight out of the gate with the Project 2025 plan that he was denying, which he's nothing but a liar and also a convicted felon and a convicted rapist. So, yeah, they said you elect a convicted rapist, expect to get effed. And so a lot of them, they effed around and found out and they're getting effed. So I want to play a little bit of this, guys, because I find it kind of funny. This is coming from Kyle Kalinski's YouTube channel. It's called Secular Talk. I will put the full video link in the description box, but I wanted to share some of this with you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it.
So the hits keep coming, y'all. Every time there's a town hall held by a Republican politician, the people are furious, like over the top furious. Now, as you all know, they have a conspiracy around this. They like to say that George Soros is paying these people. These are paid protesters, and they're like, the whole point is for them to create chaos. But first of all, that's not true.
And it's not true. These are real things that have been happening straight out of the gate, courtesy of 45/47 and the person that bought and paid for him, Elon Musk. So, why would these people who really do need a lot of the things that they were getting rid of and cutting, why? Who's out here getting paid by George Soros to go to these town halls to be a nuisance or to cause a scene or to create chaos? It's not happening.
Second of all, the idea that, hey, if the people at the town hall are Democrats, obviously you reject anything and everything they say. Like, why the fuck would they count? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because they're 50% of the fucking country, dipshit. So they're not even right. There's zero evidence of any paid protesters, George Soros funded. And by the way, look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk is actually paying people he was paying people to vote. He was giving away $1 million checks. He spent
Exactly.
$270 million to buy the White House for Donald Trump. And
So, yeah, it's like the hypocrisy of saying that these people are getting paid to go to town halls to be a nuisance. It's ridiculous.
are all paid agitators. Well, guess what? Now we have another Republican town hall. And I mean, these people you're going to see here, I don't know how many of these are actually MAGA or former MAGA versus Democrats, but some of the commentary that's coming out of these things, I mean, people are done. They're done. Remember the Chuck Grassley town hall where You have these people who look straight out of central casting to be Trump supporters who are saying Trump's destroying the Constitution. He's ripping it up. He's shipping people out with no due process. He's not listening to the Supreme Court. What the fuck? Somebody was like, if I had a $1,200 ticket and I didn't pay it, would that be okay? Well, he's ignoring the Supreme Court. So they're going Insky, bro. They're going Insky. So here we go. Let's watch this one. This has some amazing comments.
I'm alarmed. We are experiencing a blatant violation of America's system of checks and balances. We are kidnapping people, even trafficking them to another country, paying to keep them imprisoned. That is not how deportation works.
She said we are kidnapping people and human trafficking them. That's exactly right. I've struggled with this myself. I was calling them deportations over and over, and it's like, that's not what this is. Deportation implies some semblance of due process. There is no due process. They're just stealing people off the streets and shipping them to a concentration camp.
And that's the truth. That's not deporting people. There is a process for deportation that they're just saying, F the Constitution, F the laws, F the rules, F the courts. We're going to do what we want to do. We don't want these bastards in this country. So we're going to get them, load them up, put them on a plane, and ship them over to a concentration camp. Okay. Even with deportation, right? You're deporting the person to the country that they are from. And they're living there. They're not going to prison. You know what I'm saying? Just to give some people some sort of reference, right? For example, Judice or Judice, whatever they call themselves, from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. He used to be married to Teresa. When he went to prison and he was not a citizen, he never got a citizenship. When you are in this country and you are not a citizen and you commit crimes, felony, you go to prison, after that, when you're released, there's a process for deportation and then you're deported from this country. He was deported from here to his home country of Italy. He didn't go to an Italian prison, he went to Italy. And then now I believe he's living in the Bahamas. So it's like they're taking people, they're kidnapping people, and they're putting them in a like prison camp. They're not just deporting people and saying, okay, well, you got to go and live in this country now. You can't live here anymore. Nice knowing you. And it's all based on hatred.
It is kidnapping. It is human trafficking. She's right.
No trial, no proof, no paper trail. We are the terrorists in this situation.
A Republican town hall, and she just said, explain what was happening, and goes, we are the terrorists in this situation. We are the terrorists.
So just to pause it for a moment, and I know they say you don't judge a book by its cover, but look at these people. Do they really look like these are people who are actually liberals and Democrats who are being paid to be there to look like they're against what's going on right now? It's bullcrap. So that's why I do believe that, yeah, there are definitely racist people in this country. There are systems that are set up by racist people to hold minorities and other ethnic groups and things like that down and hold them back, for sure. But I believe for the most part, a lot of people are good to their core. And when it comes down to stuff like this, it's like, hold up, wait a minute, what is really going on here? So I don't believe that the majority of the people, yeah, they may not want to live near some of these people. They may not, you know what I mean? Like they want their peace in their own neighborhood and whatever. That stuff does happen. It does go on. And especially when people grow up a certain type of way. I get it. I not saying that I agree with every person's ideology, but I get it. But ultimately, the stuff that's going on right now, it's like this really is a bridge too far. So maybe it had to come to this where it's like they could really see that this person that you voted for, this adjudicated RAPIST, this convicted felon, this racist, this bigot, all of the things that you chose to ignore before, or maybe, like honestly, some people do, all they do is watch Fox News, and Fox News doesn't cover any of those things. So if that's all you see, they're never going to hear about any of those things. And if they ever hear a glimpse of anything like that, they're going to reject it because it's like, well, I never saw that on Fox News, so that can't be true. Because if it were, then they would have talked about it. No, they're not going to talk about those things. So all they know is what they see and hear in front of their own eyes all of the time. And they are a propaganda network. So these people have been influenced and they have been hypnotized and they have been put to sleep. That's why they're so against being woke, which being woke means nothing but being aware, being awake, knowing what's happening, not being lied to, not just going with the flow. And oh, if they say that's what it is, then I'm just going to go with that. Not the stuff that they try to make it be, which is they say it's LGBTQ, drag queens doing story time at children's schools or whatever, goes on. It's people with pink and purple hair. It's transgender children playing in female sports. It's none of those things, but those are the things that they try to make it to be.
Wholly based. Jesus Christ. I can't, like, the one silver lining of the Trump era is the mass awakening that's happening. People are really starting to think about these things. They're going, hold on. Why should I accept the notion that we're the good guys by default, no matter what? What about when we do an illegal invasion of a country that didn't attack us and lied about it to get in there?
And if you don't know what he's referencing, he's talking about the Bush era when they invaded Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan and all these other nations after 9/11. So, yeah, I found that particularly interesting when I'm seeing all of these town halls and these people are showing up that look like Trump, that look like Trump's mama, that look like Trump's daddy, that looks like his relatives, to say, what in the world is going on here? This is craziness. This is Looney Tunes. But yeah, you elected a convicted RAPIST, so you got to expect to get effed. And a lot of them are. And let's talk briefly about the Pope because he passed away after the Easter holiday, which in some situations and circumstances, some might look at it like, oh, wow, he dies after the Holy Day holiday. That's something. But because of what just recently happened before he died, it's definitely looking a bit, yeah, it's looking a bit awkward. So he died after a visit from JD Vance.
Died a few hours later. I'm not saying there's a correlation, I'm just presenting it as fact. The Pope met with Vice President Vance on Easter Sunday yesterday, and the meeting was described as short, awkward, and tense. Only hours later, Pope Francis had died. This makes one of his final acts as Pope meeting with a cruel and heartless man who made an entire political career out of demonizing migrants and immigrants. I'll give you 3 things about it. Thing number 1, Pope Francis made the care of migrants a focus of his papacy. From the very beginning, Pope Francis stood up for people on the margins. In 2013, in his first year as Pope, he visited the Italian island of Lampedusa, where he mourned the death of African migrants crossing the Mediterranean. He called the global indifference to their suffering a culture of comfort that desensitized people. Just last year, in 2024, he doubled down on that stance, calling the mistreatment of migrants a shipwreck of civilization. So when he looked JD Vance in the eye, he wasn't just shaking a hand. He was confronting a worldview that sees migrants not as humans, but of a problem that needs to be solved and removed. Thing number 2, Pope Francis was a vocal opponent of Trump and Vance's immigration policy. Let's not forget, back in 2016, Pope Francis said anyone who thinks only of building walls is not a Christian. That was a direct shot at Trump and this current administration's whole ideology. Vance built his whole career on being a Trump guy. He pushes for mass deportations and called immigration a war on American sovereignty. When he showed up at the Vatican, he wasn't visiting a friend. The Pope's decision to keep their meeting short and reroute Vance to a side gate wasn't just protocol, It was a statement. Thing number 3, Pope Francis leaves a legacy of caring for the most vulnerable, whether it was washing the feet of prisoners, visiting refugee camps, or calling out the tyranny of unfettered capitalism. Pope Francis used his platform to center people most often pushed to the margins. He didn't always toe the Vatican line, but he was clear about his mission: a church of the poor and for the poor. This stood in stark contrast to people like Trump and Vance who cosplay Christian values. As always, if you like this kind of content, like, follow, and share. And go.
All right, guys. So yeah, cosplaying Christianity. I couldn't have said it any better. So the fact that JD Vance came in for a little quick visit and the Pope dies not too long after that, I kind of feel like they should have canceled that visit anyway because he already wasn't feeling well. So to add the stress on top of that, I do believe that visit has something to do with the Pope getting up out of here. But you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.